Welcome back to another 3D Ross video. Today I'll be showing you how to create a crouch function for the first person player in UE4, and if you stick around to the end I'll show you how you can incorporate a cool sneak vignette like you can see here. So let's get going, but first make sure you smash the like button if you'd like more tutorials like this, and make sure to subscribe and enable the notification bell to support the channel for free and get notified whenever a new video is posted. Many thanks and enjoy the video. To start creating this crouch effect, I'm going to use the first person example template as the base. So with the character selected, I'm going to go to Edit Blueprint, Open Blueprint, and I'm going to find some space in the event graph. So to crouch, I'm going to want to press Ctrl to crouch. So I'm going to right click and type in CTRL, and I'm going to use the left control. So when we press, we want to crouch, and when we release, we want to stand back up again. So to drive our crouching, I'm going to use the capsule component. This is basically our player collider. This is controlled by the half height. So as you see, when I reduce it, it gets smaller, and when I make it bigger, it gets taller. So that is going to be used to drive our crouching like this. I'm going to reset it back to the default of 96, and we'll come to that in a moment. So because we're using the capsule component, I'm just going to left click and drag it into our event graph. And then off that pin, I'm going to type in set capsule half height, because that is the value we want to control for our crouching. And then we're going to set the half height here. So I'm just going to create a variable to control this. And I'm just going to call it half height, and I'm going to call it offset. And you'll see why I'm doing that in a moment. Instead of directly setting the height, I'm going to create an offset. And you'll see why I'll do that in a minute, but it's mainly just to make it smoother. And I'm going to change the variable type to a float. Hit compile, and there we go. We have a half height offset here. So I've just made the default as 40, but you can make it whatever you like, how much you want to reduce the half height by. So that can go into here, and we're going to get the half height. So we can just plug this into here for test now. So when you press left control, we're going to change the half height to 40 instead of 96. So if we compile and save that, and we play the game, and I press crouch, as you can see we just crouch down, and now we can get under these boxes. But as you can see, we're no longer standing back up, and that was quite jerky, so we're going to fix that right now. So going back into the event graph, I'm just going to make some more room, and I'm going to create a timeline. So I like to use timelines for anything that's interpolation based that I want to move smoothly from one value to another. So I'm going to type in timeline and add a timeline, and I'm just going to call this timeline crouch height, and then when left control is pressed, we're going to play, but I'm going to do it play from start. I'm just going to do that so we don't get any weirdness of it not completing and then the values getting added up, and that way we can end up sinking further into the ground or flying further up into the air because the values don't get a finish. But that'll become more obvious if you experiment around. So, and then on release I'm going to reverse, but I'm going to reverse from end for the exact same reasons. And then on update, I'm going to set the capsule half height. So to do this smoothly, I'm going to control the half height through the timeline. So to do that, I'm going to open the timeline by double clicking it, and I'm going to create a float track. And this is just going to interpolate between value to another. So I'm going to name this track up here. I'm just going to name this offset value. And the length I'm just going to set as 0.2. So if we shift left click now, we create a point in our graph. This keyframe is going to start on 0, so I'm going to set time to 0. I'm going to set the value to 0. Now normally people would set this to say 96 because that was our default capsule and then interpolate at whatever value they want, but I'm going to do this a different way and you'll see how I'm doing that in a moment. But I'm just doing it this way to keep things more consistent and easier as your code builds up. So again, I'm going to shift left click and create another keyframe, and this one's going to be at the end of our graph, so at 0.2 seconds. And I'm going to set this value to 1. Now if we go back to the event graph, we have this offset value, which is that track we just created. Now if you plug that straight into here, that would change the offset height from 0 to 1 because it'll interpolate through it. And I'm not going to do it this way because I want more flexibility and keep things more consistent. So I'm going to use this height offset that I created. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the offset value and I'm going to multiply it. So if we type multiply float by float, and I'm going to multiply it by our height offset value. So what this does is when this is at 0, then our half height offset will also be at 0. When this is finished on the timeline, so at 1, then this half height offset will be at 40. And when it's halfway through at 0.5, this value is going to be at 20. That way it slowly builds up this value. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this output and I'm going to minus it, so float minus float. I'm going to set it to the bottom pin because our top pin is going to be the 96, which is the value of our half height currently. So it takes our current half height and it minuses it by our offset value, but in slow increments as defined by the timeline. So if you want to set this for consistency in the project, then you could create an event play and set a variable equal to our capsule component. That way you've got this value and you don't have it hard coded and have to change this each time this changes. But I'm just going to hard code it in for now, and I'm just going to plug this into the half height. So if I compile and save this now, I'm just going to run through it. So when we press Control, it's going to go from 0 to 1. So this is going to go from 0 to 40. And we're going to minus incrementally 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 off 96. So that's going to lower 96 by 40. And then when we release, it's going to reverse that. So if I compile and save and just play it now, when we press Control and hold it down, we're now crouching, and when I release, we now stand up. Control to crouch and release to stand up. So now that's working, we can get to the bonus round of this video. So that is the vignette effect. So to do this vignette effect, I'm going to use the timeline again, and I'm just going to use this value, but you might want to create your own value or multiply it like I have here, but I'm just going to use this value just straight out. So to do the vignette effect, I'm going to get the first person camera, so I'm going to left click drag this in, and I'm going to change the post-processing effect of this camera. So to do that, I'm just going to left click drag, and I'm going to type in set post process, and I'm going to set post process settings. Now I'm going to get a node, and it's the make post process settings node, and we're going to change the settings in this node and set it equal to the settings of our camera. So any changes we make here is going to be reflected inside our camera. And in this node, the setting we want to change is the vignette. So I'm going to type in VIG, and as you can see, vignette intensity under the lens image effects. And I'm just going to tick this, and now we have a vignette intensity multiplier here. So to control that, I'm just going to use the offset value So when we're crouching, it's going to be 0, and sorry, when we're not crouching, it's going to be 0, and as we start a crouch, it's going to move up to 1. And then when we stand up, it's going to slowly go back down to 0. And if we pull out the pins from set and connect it to the capsule half height, we now connect that together. So now if we compile and save, and we go into the map, and I press Ctrl, we've got that vignette, and when I let go, we no longer have it. So as we crouch, vignette, we stand up, none. Crouch, vignette, stand up, none. So this can be cool for like a sneaking effect, or things of that nature. So yeah, you can also add this on to anything else you want. I think it's really handy that you can control the post-processing effects of a camera within the editor. And of course you can use the multiply I did here, so you can multiply that by 50 if you want 50 intensity on your vignette, just as an extreme example, but you don't need a value between 0 and 1, you can do whatever you like, just like I did here. But yeah, that kind of concludes this tutorial. You can use this post-processing effect, say for like a zoom effect when you want to zoom in, say with a gun, and darken your surroundings, a field of view, to focus in. And you can find a tutorial like that linked at the end of this video. But yeah, check out my other videos if you're in Unreal Engine or creating art. You might find some of them helpful. If you found this video helpful, do give it a like, it helps me out a lot. And subscribe and turn on the notification bell, it is free, and again it helps me out a lot, and you'll get notified when a new video is up. If you found this video helpful, please let me know down in the comments, or if you have any issues, just let me know what your issue is down in the comments and I will help you as soon as possible. But yeah, if you found this helpful, please do give it a like, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.